Hey, Optimancers! Chris here, and I am joined by Colby from D4 Deep Dive. And
Hey,
we
everybody.
we were just talking on his channel about the new monk in the new Unearthed Arcana that came out, and we discussed uh, basically we talked about our issues with the monk and what we were hoping for, and we covered everything from levels 1 through 10 in the base class. And we'll have a link up at the top where you can go visit that video. There'll also be one in the video description. But we're going to do now is we're going to talk about everything past level 10 on the base monk and talk about the warrior of the open hand or the warrior of the hand. It's not open anymore.
Warrior
Now,
of the
now,
Hand.
now it
It's
could
no
be
longer
it could be a
open.
closed hand now too.
It could be a
You
fist.
can punch. Yeah, I'm assuming most of you, if you haven't watched the first part yet, I'm recommending you do that before you start watching this one. So we're gonna just move on, and the first time we get a new feature after level 10 is level 13, where we get deflect energy. So what do you think?
I mean, the reality is, on the one hand, there's almost no change from UA6 because it just tells us that instead of, bludgeoning, piercing, slashing damage, it can be, other damage types. But since the change was made from deflect missiles to just deflect attack and it works on melee attacks now, this is amazing.
Amazing. I
Yeah.
100% agree. So much better because I would imagine that my play experience is similar to most people in that when I play a monk, the majority of times I'm attacked, it's not a ranged weapon, which means pretty much any turn where I'm in combat that I want to use a reaction, I can reduce the damage that I'm going to take, regardless of the attack type, by a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
D10 plus Dex mod plus monk level.
yeah,
And at this point, that's a lot,
yeah,
right? That's
yeah.
13
It's going to
plus.
be, even if you roll poorly, it's close to 20 points of damage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And you can do it every turn with your reaction.
yeah.
No key point cost. It costs key if you want to redirect it to do damage. Sorry, discipline points to redirect it to do damage, but otherwise it's just costing you a reaction. Now that's not nothing, right? That's opportunity
Mm-hmm.
attacks. It's whatever, but still,
Yeah, don't
that's
don't fall off
really
any
great.
cliffs after you deflect energy. Yeah,
Yeah, because you couldn't slow fall.
you wouldn't be
You're
able to slow
right.
fall.
I could see, you know what? I can totally see a DM baiting that and being like, "Oh, you want to redirect and do some more
He
damage?
punches you
Okay, yeah,
once.
no problem."
Okay, yeah. You got rid of the damage. All right, now shove.
Now he shoves. Yeah, exactly. No, I've been waiting to use slow fall this whole campaign. Splat.
But it is
Oh, I
exceptional.
forgot. I'm
And
I'm wearing my favorite monk t-shirt. My Aang, my avatar. Anyway, sorry.
my favorite is the bride from Kill Bill.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
she's
Um,
good.
very good. And she's an open hand monk. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so the yeah what I also recognize here is that and I mentioned this in our part one video. We had a boost to our patient defense. So if we use that and this, we can potentially negate closer to 30 points of damage around.
Right,
Yeah.
right. It's awesome.
And that's on top of dodging. So yeah, I'm
Right.
quite
You're taking
pleased.
the dodge action, so you probably didn't get hit in the first place. Well, you maybe did because you're still a monk without armor. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then so that's great. And then level 14 is the one time monks actually always got a good feature called Diamond Soul. They just changed the
Mm-hmm.
name. It's Disciplined Survivor. It's the same feature.
Mm-hmm. Same
Um,
as Unearthed Arcana 6.
yeah. And then we do have a change at level 15. So this is when we
Mm.
get perfect discipline. And it says that when you roll initiative and have 3 discipline points or fewer, you regain expended discipline points until you have 4. So the
Right.
change from the previous is that it previously only worked if you were out of key, and then it would increase you
Right.
to 4, which could create very odd situations where
Right.
you have 2 key, so
And
you
you're
can't
trying to
use it.
spend them before combat starts.
Yeah.
You're like, oh crap, I have 2 key points.
I
Oh,
flurry
what
of
can I do?
blows my friend twice. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. That perfect.
Um,
Makes perfect sense.
I still don't love the feature, but I'm fine with it now.
Yeah.
I used to
It's
hate
not
it.
amazing.
I used to hate
Yeah.
it. I don't hate this. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, up to 4. Okay, so I went from 2 to 4, or 1 to 4, or 0 to 4. At level 15, I mean, hopefully you're not needing this very often, right?
Yeah, and
You're
four
either getting a
four
short
isn't a
rest
four
or
isn't a whole lot at level
right,
15.
right.
Yeah,
But it probably will give you 1 discipline point per round for a combat encounter,
probably. Yeah,
right? Or most rounds, depending if it's a long fight, maybe not quite, but yeah.
yeah.
Um, so it's not nothing.
It's not nothing.
Uh, but yeah, at my table, most of the time, I would think I'm getting enough short rests, and we've got that
Once per
level
long
two.
rest, full
Yeah,
recovery. Yeah, that's
right.
uh
That hopefully you won't
uncanny
need this
metabolism.
often. Yeah,
Yeah.
but if you do, you'll be glad to have
I'm no longer gonna rage at this one because I used to like
it.
I hated
Yeah,
the previous one. I don't hate this.
it was
Um,
better if you had 0.
and then it says at level 18. So of course the player's handbook monk has that
Mhm.
ability where you can turn invisible and gain
Mhm.
resistance to damage, but it takes your
Mhm.
action to use it.
Mhm.
And then in the last playtest, they said, well, it's not going to make you invisible anymore, but it'll only take a bonus action.
Mhm.
And now it doesn't even take a bonus action. You can just
You
use it.
just
Yeah,
you just use it, and it gives you
three
resistance.
discipline points though, so it's not free.
Right. But still, resistance to all damage. We're level 18. We've got 3 discipline points to spare, right?
We got at least 4, right? At
Yeah,
least 4.
yeah, yeah. So you might spend 3 of them to get resistance to all damage for an entire minute, and it's just at the start of your turn, no bonus action, no reaction, no action, no nothing. Again, I talked about this last time a couple of times, right? I love this. I want to see more of these kinds of things in D&D that are just sort of resource-free buffs
Yeah.
that we can just get for ourselves, that we don't have to be, it's like, well, do I like make an attack, or do I use my bonus action to, Misty Step or do an unarmed strike, or should I do this thing? It's like, nope, you just get it. Like you're level
Yeah.
18, you just get it.
There's a couple
It's
things
great.
I do want to mention here. So first off, it doesn't work against force.
Mm.
Um, but that's only keep in mind that we can still use our deflect attacks against
Mhm.
force at this level. Um, but if we use our deflect attacks for any other kind of damage, I should mention that you're going to reduce the damage and then half it, not the other way
Then,
around.
yep,
However,
yep.
if we use our patient defense to gain temporary hit
Mm.
points, then we half it, then remove the temporary hit points.
Temporary hit
So
points. Then,
those just got a little bit better as well. In fact,
yes,
potentially
yes.
twice as good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Great ability.
Yeah, I'm quite pleased with it. But my favorite is the capstone. Monks finally got a great capstone, and this is a capstone that I recommended for monks exactly years
Yeah,
ago. Yeah, I did a
yeah,
variant for monks, and this was the capstone. So
yeah.
your dexterity and wisdom scores increased by 4, and your maximum for those scores is now 26. This is a correction from. So this is similar to the barbarian one, right? The barbarian, it's strength and constitution. But in the last playtest, the barbarian, they capped it at 24, which they shouldn't do because
Hmm.
ability score
Hmm.
increase at level 19 allows you to get a 22. So
Right.
if you use our level 19, and we probably will, ability score increase to increase our probably our dexterity to 22. This will
Hmm.
bump it up to 26. Or if you want to go
Yep.
wisdom to 26, and remember your wisdom is your DCs, and that's some pretty crazy DCs. Like
Yes.
your wizards and sorcerers and stuff. they don't get those kind of
Mm-mm.
DCs because they don't
Mm-mm.
get a 26 intelligence score, right?
Right.
Yeah,
So yeah,
that's
I mean,
three.
stunning strike is going to land a lot more reliably
Yeah,
in that case, even against enemies with a decent con save.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's awesome. And I love too that you could, so for example, what's the legendary or is it legendary magic item, the book that you get that can raise your an ability score by
There's
two?
like Tome of
There's one for
Clear
each.
Thought and
Yeah, yeah,
Manual
yeah.
of Bodily Health and
Right.
yeah.
So you could conceivably, if you got the right magic item, have a 26 dex and a 26 wisdom.
Hmm.
And that
Well,
would give us
conceivably, you can have 30 and 30 actually if you get enough of those books.
sure, sure, sure.
But I
Um,
mean, just based on what we would expect to happen without any magic items, we're probably
right.
going to have. Uh, there's a reasonably good chance of having a 26 and a 24, and that's a +8 and a +7, and so that's a base 25 armor class.
25 AC.
Yeah,
Yep. No armor, no shield. Throw on a cloak of protection and some bracers of defense.
yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
keep in mind that dexterity and wisdom are two of the big saving throws too, right? Like they're
Hmm.
the ones that come
Hmm.
up more often.
Yep.
And so you are gaining from that. This is a exceptional capstone.
Yes.
Yeah, one of the
Yeah.
best in the game. Um,
Yeah.
only the barbarian can really compete with this, and
Compete.
potentially
Hmm.
it's better than the barbarian one because
Right,
both
because
scores apply to
wisdom
our armor class,
mhm,
and dexterity and wisdom I'd say have more value on other things than strength and
for saving
constitution.
throw, perception checks,
Arguably the
like
best capstone in the game right here. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
from the worst
Right,
to the best.
right,
Like
right.
that's quite the shift. Uh,
Hmm.
so I'm tempted to say let's sum up the monk, but I'd rather actually let's go over the warrior of
Just
the
jump
hand,
in.
and then
Yeah,
we'll cover the whole darn thing at the end.
yeah.
Okay, so there were three subclasses in the last version of the playtest. So you
Mhm.
had Warrior of Shadow, Warrior of Elements, and Warrior of the Hand. Colby and I looked at all three of them, and we actually thought the first two were reasonably good. With the
Yeah,
elements, we talked about some changes we'd like to see, but
sure, sure.
then I play tested it and it was really good.
Oh, nice.
um,
I have not play tested it,
okay,
so that's good to know.
there's a level 3 feature that lasts for 10 minutes using one
Hmm.
discipline point that gives you 10 feet of reach,
Mm.
and it's good. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
really
yeah,
good.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But anyways, Warrior of Hand was terrible. It was
Hmm.
shameful.
Hmm.
It was worse than the player's handbook version. So
Right.
let's take a look here, and I'll tell you what. The first comments I've seen from other people on this are negative.
Really?
Yep, yep,
That surprises me.
yeah. Well, doesn't surprise me all that much because I think there's some nuance here that requires some thought. Because I'll tell you, there's one of
Hmm.
these features I read and I was super pissed, and I thought
Hmm.
about it, and I'm like, oh no, it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm curious to know what that is.
we'll
Um,
we'll get there.
let's jump in.
First, we have open hand technique. So this
Hmm.
is the classic, right? We all know this one. Whenever you make an attack, granted by flurry of blows, you can impose any of the following effects on the target. You can take away their reactions. You can they make a strength saving throw, or they're pushed 15 feet. They succeed on dexterity saving throw, or it has a prone condition. This reads the same. So here's one. This reads the same as the player's handbook version, right?
Hmm.
Like,
Except for, well, right, right,
yeah,
right,
yeah,
because they did have the addle thing. Yeah.
yeah. It reads the same as the player's handbook version. I've never loved the player's handbook version because I
Mm-mm.
figure number one that it's a key point. Now I've got to now think if I'm saying 2014, it's key point
Yes.
tax, right? And things
Uh-huh.
like pushing and toppling. We can do this for free now with weapon mastery, and now you're going to
Hmm.
charge me to do it, right?
Hmm.
With a subclass feature when weapon mastery is cheap for everybody else.
Right.
And the second thing was like it just seemed more special in 2014 when these things weren't so commonplace, and now these things seem very commonplace. So I gotta say this is not the only one, but I gotta say the first time I read this, I'm like, all right, they've because I mean in the last playtest, what they did is the whole reaction thing. They gave you a saving throw.
Con save.
And now what they've done is if they haven't taken away reactions, they said opportunity attacks,
Hmm.
and that's because there's so many more creatures getting different kinds of reactions and multiple reactions now. It's kind of
Right.
being a replacement for legendary actions. Sometimes they
Hmm.
don't want you to be able to take legendary actions away,
Right. Right.
so that's why that changed. But yeah, first I read this, I'm like, it's the 2014 version. And then I thought about some things that I thought made it a lot better than the 2014 version. But what was your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the place I always go is damage, right? And so for me, I'm thinking, well, the reason this is good is because of the change to the base class, where we can now flurry of blows as a bonus action, and it's not tied to taking the attack action. So we could do really cool stuff like, multi-class to pick up Moonbeam or Cloud of Daggers or Spike Growth, and then and we can use our action to put that spell down, and now bonus action flurry of blows, push them through 15 feet through the spike growth, doing extra damage for doing that, and now the rest of the encounter we've got spike growth up that we can make good use of and continue to push people through it and stuff like that. So plus we're good grapplers now, we could even drag them, you know what I mean? Like it just I just love this because of the detachment from the attack action. We can flurry of blows, knock him prone, right with our first attack of the round. And now, assuming we've got extra attack, we're getting 3 more attacks this round with advantage, right? Because they're prone. I mean, it's how it should have been from the beginning, in my opinion. Because in the past, I'm always like, oh, cool, I can knock him prone with flurry of blows and have advantage. But it's like, you have to finish your action first
Yeah.
before you can flurry
Yeah.
of
As long as
blows.
they
And
don't
now
get
I'm
up
not
on their
benefiting.
turn. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's great for my allies potentially if they're melee too and attacking the same target, and they happen to be next in the initiative order before this enemy. But otherwise, it wasn't doing much. So it just really opens up. It just makes it so much more useful and beneficial
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah, I agree. The ability to take flurry of blows before your action is a big boost here, and it wasn't obvious to me when I first read. Because again, I just read
Mm,
it and I'm thinking, same as 2014.
same
I've
thing.
had
Yeah,
an
yeah.
opinion of the 2014 version for years and years. Um, they didn't fix it, but now I'm
Right.
thinking, no, they have fixed it because yes, you can do it first, but there's more than that. Two of my
Mm,
biggest issues with this is number one, I've always considered it a key point tax. This is not a discipline point tax. At least once we start getting three, four, I mentioned this in the first video. I said once we got three actions, we're going to be doing it every round. So if we're doing it
yeah.
anyway, then it's not a
Yeah.
tax, right?
Right.
We're already paying that tax. We're just getting more benefit for it. So it's just better. And yeah, being able to do it beforehand is just better. And once we get three attacks, we're getting three uses of this instead of two. So, potentially three
Yeah.
hits, and
Yeah.
we apply them to all. This isn't once per turn. So it just got 150% better just from that alone, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of how, because monks have a lot of move speed. Right. And so, yeah, once you hit level 10 and you flurry of blows, you get 3 unarmed strikes. You could push them 45 feet.
yeah,
Hit them, run up to him again, hit him, run up to him again, hit him. I mean, man, if there's any obstacle or cliff or, spell area that you want to move him into, you could get just about any
yeah.
enemy into it.
So yeah, it reads exactly the same or pretty close to exactly the same as the 2014 Player's Handbook. It's a lot better.
Yeah,
It's a lot
yeah,
better
yeah,
because of everything else it applies to.
right.
Yeah, it largely because flurry of blows is so much better. And
Hmm.
if you're going to apply this to every flurry of blows attack, you give me more flurry of blows attacks. You gave me more of this too. Yeah, it's
Yep.
just the way it is. So yeah, no,
Love it.
I ended up deciding, okay, no, it is good, and it's one of those things where I'm just glad we didn't do this as a read and
As a
react,
live
because I would
reaction.
have had a negative reaction to this, and then afterwards I would have thought, it's a lot better than I said it was. Okay, so next one is wholeness of body. That's level 6. And you gain the ability to heal yourself as a bonus action. You roll your martial arts die, and you gain that plus your wisdom modifier, and you can use it a number of times, equal to your wisdom modifier per long rest.
Mhm.
And your thoughts.
No key point
Mm-hmm.
requirement. That's great. And it's a bonus action, not an action like it is in the player's handbook anyway, 2014. Um, it's still not an amazing ability,
Mm-hmm.
but it's better. And so I have to be happy about that. Now, if you could use it to heal somebody else, then I think it's like,
Yeah.
okay, like that's
So
that's not
like,
bad. It's almost like a lay on hands
yeah.
kind of thing. Yeah, yeah, Mr. Miyagi, there you go.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, I could see that.
But wisdom modifier times per day, martial arts plus wisdom modifier, die heal as a bonus action. Doesn't cost me a key point. I mean, gosh, I want that bonus action obviously for other things. Um, but even if between combat encounters, maybe, or if I'm out of key points, well, if I'm out of key points, I'm still making an unarmed strike with my bonus action if
Yeah.
I'm in combat.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's marginally
It,
useful. It's better at least.
I will mention that my primary complaint, the thing that made me so angry about this
Mhm.
feature in the last playtest, was that in the 2014 Player's Handbook, it doesn't require a key to use this.
Mhm.
It's free.
Yeah,
And then not only do they put the discipline point cost, but they also put the number of uses limit. So now I've got two
right.
different resources to track for the same crappy feature, and I'm like, that's so stupid. This
Yeah,
this is better. This is
yeah,
fine. It's weak. It's a weak feature,
yep.
because I want to use my bonus action on other things. Even
Mhm.
if I want to do some, like if I'm talking about in combat and I'm like, ooh, my hit points are getting low. Certainly by level 10, I want to do patient defense, right? And
Sure.
get two rolls of my martial arts die as temps and the dodge and disengage, right?
Yeah,
With my bonus rather than this. Though this is free, so we're not using
yeah,
discipline. It's it's on the weak side though.
yeah.
I don't
It's
love
it's
it,
still
but
not something you're
I
gonna
don't.
use very often.
It no longer enrages me.
Yeah, it's almost like it's very rare where you would want to use this in combat.
Yeah,
Once
yeah.
in a while, maybe in an extreme circumstance,
So
but most of the time, it's like saving me some hit dice between combat
that's what
encounters.
that I agree. That's what it's going to be. So then the bonus action doesn't really matter, right? It might as well be an action. It doesn't matter because we're not going to
Sure.
be doing it in combat anyway. I don't see a lot of cases where I'd want to use this in combat. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just not
If
the best way to use your bonus action to stay up in combat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do they fix it? Just make it heal more?
Well, I like your idea of being able to do it with on other people. I think that's really good.
Yeah.
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 Because if you can bring up someone from zero, right,
And
and with a
yeah.
bonus action,
Mhm.
nothing wrong with that. That's a new thing
Yeah,
paladins
you've
can do
got
too.
a
Yeah,
right. Yeah. Well, okay. Maybe wizards if you're
yeah.
watching.
This one could
Be
use,
good.
but overall, eh, there's good subclasses that where not every feature is a banger.
Sure, sure.
Um, and this is one of them. Wholeness of body is not a banger. This
Yeah.
subclass is a banger. Now,
Yes.
yeah. Level
Yes.
11, Fleet Step. So in the last playtest, they said you can take the Step of the Wind as a without spending a discipline point. That's what it was, right?
Hmm.
And I pointed out that that's a direct conflict, negative synergy with their third level feature where you want to use your bonus action on something else, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I was getting madder and madder. I've rewatched that video for entertainment sometimes just to see my face turn red. Um, but Fleet Step now, you can easily stride out of harm's way when you take a bonus action other than Step of the Wind. You can also use Step of the Wind as part of that bonus action. So I'm flurry of blows every round. Of course I am. I
Yeah,
also step of the wind every round
yeah.
for free. Yeah.
Every round for free. You can so let's break
Now,
that
now,
down.
now,
What
yeah,
that
yeah,
means
yeah, yeah,
is
yeah. Only for
you
free
can
with a
dash.
base. Yeah, so you're always
Right,
dashing. So you will
right,
always have an extra movement, but you also have the ability to spend the one discipline point to get the
right.
additional benefits. Yeah.
So you could spend a discipline point. So okay, so we're spending a discipline point. We're flurry of blows. We use flurry of blows. Now we can dash also for free, or we can spend another discipline point and disengage
And
and
dash
dash.
and double jump
Um,
speed, double jump. Yeah.
and double jump. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so awesome. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to need this every round. Monks have a lot of move speed
Oh,
already,
oh, and
but
carry along. Well, I was thinking about this too. You're not only dashing, you're
oh,
carrying along the
right.
ally.
You can
It,
carry an ally because at level
so,
10,
so, so if you
that was the
wanted
step of the
to,
wind buff, right?
so if you wanted to, you could have your ally move in. They hit the enemy. Then you're super monk, right? So you're super fast.
Mm-hmm.
So you move in there, flurry of blows, punch, 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 get down on the ground because open hand technique. Grab your ally, pull him away, and then and then the monster gets up from prone and he lumbers like a quarter of the way towards you. Rinse and repeat.
Yeah. I'm thinking of so many fun, like how many builds out there do you have? Rogues in particular, it seems like that are kind of like hit and run
Yeah.
type, you know, but
Now
they've got to
that's
use their bonus action to
two
disengage.
discipline points to do it that way.
Yes,
Yeah.
sure, sure,
Yeah.
sure. But you're level 11, you're probably okay, right? And I'm just
Well,
thinking of like, yeah,
we'll
you're
see.
hitting with booming blade. Your friend runs up, hits with booming blade, you run up, make some attack, grab him, you both run away. Now the monster has to move to get up to hit anybody. He's going to take damage. Like, oh, I love it. I
Yeah.
love it.
I mean, you're still probably going to want to attempt a stunning strike, so that's three discipline points forever.
That's true. That's true
And
because the
then once
stunning
we
strike's
get
going
to
to do
level
damage if it.
17, your discipline is going to go.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Because quivering palm
Quivering Palm.
change.
So this is the one that I read, and I literally wrote a note on my Discord. I said, I can't believe that they nerfed Quivering Palm again. Because the damage is lower than last. So
Mm-hmm.
in of course, the player's handbook, um, if they
10d10.
you usually you hit somebody, you apply Quivering Palm, uh, they you use an action to activate it in a probably next
And they
turn or
and
whatever,
they die.
and they maybe die if they don't have any
Probably not.
legendary resistances and they roll poorly,
Or a crappy con
or
save,
or
yeah.
they or they take a lot of damage. Right? That's the
10d10.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
and no, you don't save for half,
right.
and then
Straight up.
it's just straight damage. Then in the last playtest, the automatic death was gone,
Mm.
but the damage was also reduced because it was
Right.
10d12 plus your monk level, but
Hmm.
it gave a save for half. So that
Right.
meant that if they failed their save, instead of dying, they took a reasonable amount of damage. And if they made their save, instead of 10d10, they took
Right.
10d12 plus monk level, but
Half.
halved, which was
Yeah.
actually
So
lower.
less.
So it was worse and worse. And then this
Yeah.
one, now it's 10d12 force damage, no monk level, save for half.
Hmm.
And also the cost went from 3 discipline points to
To
4
4.
discipline points.
Hmm.
And I'm like, the only benefit in this entire thing is that instead of making 2 attacks with your attack action, you can take 1 attack and activate this. So it's like, okay, so basically, I'm getting 1 attack more than I got
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
That's the way I originally thought about it, and it took me about 20 minutes before I started going, wait a minute,
Yes.
and then I actually wrote down the sequence of events that happens on
Hmm.
the quivering or the warrior of the hands 17th level turn, and realized that as long as you are willing to piss out your discipline points like there's no
Yes.
tomorrow, you get Nova damage, sustained
Yeah.
Nova damage for a
Yeah.
significant period of time with this
Yeah.
character.
Yeah.
which I already know you figured out because we were both kind of hinting at it. As soon as we started talking about flurry of blows happening before the attack action, and then we're like, well,
Mhm.
just wait till we get to Warrior of the Hand. We'll talk about this. So why don't you tell everyone what the sequence is?
I mean, yeah, you can like just the fact that you can replace one of your attack actions, right, with this is huge because you just have to hit them with an unarmed strike, right? And so you could use a flurry of blows to hit them with an unarmed strike, then use your first attack from your attack action to activate, do the
On the same
10d12
turn.
damage on the same turn.
Yeah.
And even if you've got the key, right? Because this there's no like once is there a once per turn rider on this?
Um, yes. Yeah, because it says alternatively when you take the attack action on your turn, you can replace one of those attacks with this action.
Okay.
I would
Okay.
read that as you can only do it once, but I do think you can do this every single round.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean at the cost of 4 key points, but still,
Yeah.
10d12 half on a save
It's
is a lot
65 or 32 on
30,
average if they
right?
save. So I would expect about 45 damage a round to replace one attack.
One attack.
Yeah.
So assuming you don't have some homebrew crazy magic item that just makes your punches hit like
Yeah.
a freight train, and you've got the key to spend,
It's
yeah, that's
a lot more
awesome.
damage.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And because you can flurry of
Um,
blows first now, your
mhm.
three attacks, you just need to hit once. And
One.
even if you miss,
You
with
still
all
got
three,
one of your
you still
attacks
got one of
from
your
your attack
regular
action.
attack action
Yeah.
to make it work. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It's fun. I
I
I
mean,
have a like a
I wrote it
special.
down, and this is what it ends up being. Now that so if you got 6 discipline points, you're ready to spend.
Mhm.
Well, seven. Let's say seven. Let's say you want to spend
Because you want a
seven
stunning
discipline
strike.
points. No, even more than that. So then I uh, uh, do my attack action. I do. Sorry, first I start with the flurry blows, attack three
Mhm.
times. If I hit with any of them, I'm going to do both quivering palm and stunning strike because what
Mhm.
the heck. I mean, the worst case scenario with stunning strike is we do more damage.
Right.
And then because of our fleet of step, we're going to
Mhm.
also get our full benefit there, get the dash. We're going
Mhm.
to get the
Dash.
disengage. We're going to get the jump. We're going to get the pull
Carry a
around an
friend with
ally.
you.
Yeah, we're going to grab all of it. Um, and on top of that, we get the open hand technique on all those flurry blows
Mhm.
attacks. And then
Might be
on
knocking
top
them
of that, yeah, then
prone,
we do
pushing
our
them.
regular. We're going to, of course, by level 20, we've got our weapon mastery feat. So we're going to do our Nick attack for free. Might as well. Another D12. And I can stunning strike with that too, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I'm going to quivering palm as soon as I can. Uh, and it's 4 attacks that I'm making that have a D10 plus 5. One attack is just a D10. Um, and flurry blows, another 10.5. Quivering. I figure a little under 100 points of damage per round when you do that,
Hmm.
plus all the maneuverability, plus the potential to stun, all
Yeah.
of it.
Plus,
Yeah.
if you have a magic fist wrap or whatever, I mean, we're not even taking into account potential like bumps,
Yeah.
magic
Well,
items,
and I mean, once we get into level 20, then like I assumed that most creatures would make their con saves most of the time when I
Hmm.
worked out that damage.
Hmm.
You get that increased DC. This could be
Yeah.
well over 100 points,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. I have a special place in my heart for the original Quivering Palm just because I love the idea of like save or die, just conceptually. It's just fun to feel like I could kill any creature, 500 hit points, a million hit points,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter as long as they fail that con save. Um, But again, similarly to Stunning Strike, I guess it inevitably is a, like awesome when it
Yeah.
works, not that great if it doesn't.
And
50, it was 55
unlike
damage on
Stunning
average.
Strike, like Stunning Strike, I find maybe doesn't work most of the time, but it still
Sure.
works a fair amount of the time, right?
Sure.
Like it's not unusual for Stunning Strike to work. It
Right.
is really unusual for Quivering Palm to work. Like
Yep.
really, really unusual.
And and it takes your whole action. And so when it failed in the player's handbook version, 2014, it was worse than using your action to make attacks.
Yeah,
And so it was kind of like most of the time it was not worth using.
yeah,
Um, at least it still did damage, even if they succeeded, but you would have been better off just punching them or whatever, right? And so yeah, while I miss that, like, I can just set up these vibrations in your body and then you just die, like, if you fail a save, this is better.
yeah,
No question.
yeah. I mean, what it's essentially going to be is your discipline points just turned into damage battery, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and I should mention Stunning Strike potentially is adding more damage on top of that, by the way.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and so, as much as you said, well, by level 7, I'm not so worried about running out of discipline points. I bet you at level 17, you'll be worried about running out of discipline points because you
Again.
could be out in
Yeah.
3 rounds, right?
Hmm.
Quite
Hmm.
easily.
Yeah.
But they'll be a great 3 rounds.
Yes. And you could scale it back a little bit and say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm just gonna flurry of blows and quivering palm. So that's five. That's gonna get you through
I mean,
three rounds, and
what
then you can still flurry of blows on the
yeah.
fourth round or
What
whatever.
what's not going to happen is you're not going to quivering palms every single turn.
Right,
You
right.
might do it in the an end fight, maybe,
Sure.
but even then, those fights often last more than 4 rounds. So even then, you might
Yes.
not.
Yes.
Yeah,
And yeah, you're right. I mean, a lot of times you don't need this much damage. You're attacking something that you feel reasonably certain probably has, 20, 30, 40 hit points or whatever. I can just wail on them and they're going to go down, and then I'll save my quivering palm for, next round when I'm
yeah,
attacking a fresh enemy or whatever. So yeah, I love it.
yep,
I
yeah,
love just about everything in this UA for monks.
yeah. I
Um,
there every little thing I went through and I'm like, okay, so what changes would I make? And every note I made was splitting hairs, every single one.
mhm,
Like,
mhm,
okay, I mentioned this before. There's that level 10 where all your bonus action stuff scales. I'd bump it to level 11.
mhm.
Um, wholeness of body needs
Don't
some.
do that, Wizards of the Coast. Don't do it. Leave it at 10.
I would bump up wholeness of body a little bit, but it was all little stuff, right?
Yeah,
Everything was little.
yeah.
And I looked at it and I'm like, if they took this word for word and threw it in the player's handbook in 2024, I
Mm.
guarantee you, I would not consider them the weakest class in the game anymore.
No,
Yeah,
no.
yeah,
Nor would I. And as a huge monk lover, my viewers of my channel know they're like my favorite class conceptually, anyways. And I want monks to be good so bad,
yeah,
because I love, love, love to play them. And this feels like not only because I would argue that today in the current version of 5e you can make a decent monk, with some creativity, with some multi-classing, you can get to a pretty good place, and I've made a ton of them, or attempted to anyway, on my channel. But this is like, it actually makes me feel like, yeah, I don't know that I want to multi-class
yeah,
this
yeah.
this monk.
Especially
And
with that
and
sweet capstone. If there's ever a chance of getting to level
20,
20,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. So, and I love that. Now there is a part of me, to be fair, and I think I released a short on this a couple of weeks ago talking about this. Like, there's a part of me that, as much as I complain about it when classes don't scale well, the reality is I kind of like it when classes don't scale well because then it encourages me to multi-class, and then I get to go like, ooh, like what can I play with here? How can I piece this together and make something fun and cool and creative at the same time? Like it should be, it should be a difficult decision. And right now with monks, it really isn't, right?
Yeah.
And so I love that this is like, oh, yeah, do I go and try and pick up, maybe some spells or
I'm
whatever,
of the
or do I
opinion that
stay?
there are probably some good multi classes. It's hard to say when the everything's changing, right?
Hmm.
But I wouldn't be a bit surprised if there's going to be some nice multi classes for this monk. But it's
Yeah.
definitely looks like it's pretty solid if you went straight.
Yes. Yes. No question. Yeah. I mean, like, I really want Spirit Shroud on this monk really bad, but 5 levels, that's a huge investment, right? And it's
Yeah,
like, oh, probably not worth it. Maybe not worth it. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with difficult decisions. So yeah, I think it's fantastic. So kudos to Wizards of the Coast for
yeah,
listening to feedback,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean,
Um,
I was angry last time, um,
yeah.
and it's just so nice to see that obviously the community rallied behind similar thoughts to what we had, because
Hmm.
what we see here in changes really addresses the things that we brought up in those first two videos, in
Yeah.
a big way. um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's different stuff than we suggested, but when we said this is no good because of this and this is no good because
Right.
of that, like when I mentioned, there's the bonus action conflict on the warrior of the hand, and then they remove that bonus action conflict. um,
Yeah.
it tells me that the community saw the same thing I did, or maybe they heard us, right?
Sure.
And
Sure.
but they let Wizards know, and Wizards made the changes that we asked for,
Yeah.
and that's
And
gratifying.
like you said in the part one, I think, we've long complained that Monk's defensive capabilities are lackluster. And
Yeah,
we've kind of been thinking, well, find a way to increase their armor class. They didn't do that, but they did other things that, and I love it. I
yeah,
love it.
me
Like I
too.
would way rather that they give something
Yes,
that feels like flavorful and unique, but still kind of has the same effect of like increasing our survivability,
yeah,
right?
I
By
I agree a
deflecting
hundred percent.
attacks, being able to take dodge action more easily, like, all that stuff is just like, oh yeah, this is so good and it makes it feel like different than just a fighter or whatever, a paladin. So it gives it kind of a unique, fun, like niche, while still making it viable and powerful and ton of fun.
Yeah, yeah. I was um, I have I have no real complaints. All I have are
Yeah.
little things where I'm like, it could be a little. This could
Could you
that
could you
I don't
explain
fully.
why
Yeah,
stunning strike still does damage if
exactly,
they
exactly.
succeed on their saving
Those
throw?
kinds of things. But to see a fix from like I've seen a million fixes for the monk, right?
Mm-hmm.
That
And you've
that
you've you've done some yourself. You've
I've done
suggested
some
some yourself.
myself, but I see them all the
Yeah.
time now, right? Because
Yeah.
as the community came to recognize that, the monk probably could use something,
Hmm.
then naturally people start saying, okay, well, what about this? What about that? What
Yeah.
about?
Yeah.
And I've seen a number of fixes that were just fine, but to see it now from the designers of the game, who are the ones who are going to print the official rules in 2024, so that when you sit down at a table where the DM says we're just going to play by the rules, you
Hmm.
got a monk that you want to play. Oh,
Yes.
this is what I've wanted all along, right? Is to
Yes.
have to get to play monks without feeling punished. That's all I wanted.
Yeah.
you know,
Yep.
yeah.
So good. Well, I'm excited, and here's hoping that they don't scale it back too much between now and release.
Yeah, and I this is off topic a little bit, but it's adjacent. This is some playtest, right? The monk, I'm pleased, but this is some playtest. Big moves
Yeah.
here, really
Yeah.
game changing stuff.
I
and so shocking because they said, "Oh, the experimental phase was done." Blah, blah, blah,
is
blah,
over.
blah. And, oh, we're just going to change all the summoning spells into non-summoning spells and put
Yes,
Tasha's summoning
yes.
spells in instead. You know,
Thank you. Thank you. I hated old conjure animals.
yeah.
This is so much
I
better.
I was I actually was like, oh, oh, this is so good.
You're getting emotional. Yeah,
Yeah,
what's funny is I've just been today, like I haven't even taken time to look at any of the other UA. I listened while I was exercising earlier. I listened to the little release video that
yeah, yeah.
Jeremy Crawford did with Todd. Um and that was great. And so it gave me a little taste, but I need to now dive into the
Well, and
rest and
I
kind
have
of
not,
get the details.
I have not carefully analyzed anything but the monk,
Sure,
because
sure.
we discussed that we were going to do this, and I'm like,
Time.
I want to,
Yeah,
if we're going to do a video, I want to have some thoughtful analysis of the monk and observations, um, which hopefully we gave, and
yeah.
so everything else got a really quick skim.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I know that you are going to do a very thorough, excellent
I will.
job of
Thank you.
breaking all the other stuff down. And so I look forward to seeing your analysis on future videos because I know it's going to be good.
Excellent. We'll see. Thorough, I guarantee. Yeah. All right.
Uh,
I
okay.
I think that's it. So I want to
Yeah.
thank all our viewers once again. If you hadn't watched the first, you should have watched the first one. We told you, but they are linked in the video description. And thanks Colby for agreeing to this. He said Mondays aren't so great for me. I'll make time for you, Chris. So
Oh,
that
come
was really
on.
nice of you.
It's Chris and it's a monk and it's a big monk buff. So I was super excited about it. So yeah.
Being that we had such negative views last time, I just thought it was really fitting for us to get back and do the same kind of thing and be able to say nice things. That's
Yes,
just
absolutely.
so good. So thank you for joining me, and I'll be getting into more of my normal style of analysis of everything else according to my normal schedule. So
Yes.
thanks, Colby, and everyone
Okay.
else.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say goodbye.